Okay, we're live. We're on.
All right.
So the first thing I want to do when I'm not normally like this, I need to start with a rant. And
Rant away.
I'm going to rant at our dear friend, Sister Elise. And I normally don't direct my rants like this. But here's the thing. You're probably one of the most awesome people that most people never get to hear of. And we have this conversation, but I want to say it louder for everybody else to hear, because until you know somebody this has happened to, it always seems like a mere threat, or maybe it'll be funny. Because you say these crazy things, crazier than I say. No, I say a lot of crazy stuff, but I save them for my own website, and then I direct people there. But you have a habit of going on to other platforms on broad social media and saying whatever it is you want to say that, you know, controversial or not, you know, we know that three of us, for better or for worse, I consider myself an E-level celebrity. Like, you know how they have A, B, C level, D level. I don't even know who those people are, but I'm like an E-level celebrity. But even I know that once you have a voice, there are people who subscribe to everything you do, watch every tweet you send, for the sole reason of they just want to report you to get you kicked off a platform. And you got kicked into Facebook jail. How many times have you been in Facebook jail?
5 times.
Here's what I'm going to say to you. And Roxana, I want you to chime in if you have any say-so on this as well. Here's the thing. I know people that's happened to, and they get kicked in and they get kicked out. But the reason you never hear from the people who get kicked off the platform is because when they vanish you, you're gone. To believe that all the platforms don't talk to each other anymore, that's nonsense. But what I'm saying is that you won't know how much you actually are going to miss having the opportunity to use a free platform, and as dirty as they are, still free, until they take it away from you. I'm not saying don't say crazy stuff, but I'm saying say it on your platform and then leave a link and say, hey, follow my crazy ass here, and this is where I say other stuff, and that's fine. But I don't want that to happen to you, because I know a few people that have been silenced by being removed. And everybody thinks if I use an alternative email address or a different IP number, to believe that they don't know exactly who you are and where you are is nonsense. Yeah. If they choose to say you're gone, and you will think the world has come to an end because you don't use it for a major platform to speak. You don't know how many cool little advantages you get if having access to the platform. You know, I know people who say, I don't really use Facebook. I only go to there to find out what's cool going on in my city. That's the same thing. I know people that say, well, I don't really use Facebook. I just throw my company advertisements there. It's the same thing. They just don't know that the whole plan is as long as you're doing something, you're using our platform. And what I don't want to have happen to you is one day you wake up, you know, giggling and laughing about another day in Facebook jail, and your login just doesn't work. And they've logged your IP address, where you're from. They know what block you live on. They know all your friends. And the other thing that ends up happening is when they have to get another name, go through a bunch of bells and whistles to pretend to be somebody else, they re-add their friends, not realizing it's somebody on your friends list that snitched you out the first time. And they're going to do it again. They're going to say, oh, this person was banned, but they're back under a different name. How do I know? I've seen that happen to people. I know it's real, but you never hear it because once they're gone, they're gone. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just don't want that to happen to you.
Yeah, no one has reported my stuff. My stuff has all been through the algorithms. So
for you to believe it's naive.
Yeah.
For you to believe that it's just the algorithm that got you is naive. But let's just say that's true. We know that once you're on the list, you're on the list.
Yeah. No, the algorithm did, because I mean, I don't think anybody reported me within 2 minutes. So.
If you don't believe that there are people, if you don't believe that there are a shit ton of people who follow you, who hate your guts, who just want to see you say something so they can get rid of you, you're naive. Stop believing that everybody who's in your face is your friend. There are people who look at me every day who say slide comments, and I know they're just waiting because I have people who tell me and some people who don't. But for you to believe that anybody who simply has the courage to have a voice doesn't have a disproportionate number of people who hate them, come on now. You know better than that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, you know, that's my beginning rant. So let's see. Where was I? Oh, you know, we had something. Let me make sure that, see who's watching. We got a thumbs up already. And thanks to everybody or anybody who was watching and waiting. I want everybody, by the way, to give a thumbs up in the platform, because that's something that we really need. The thumbs up are good. But what I wanted to say is, well, let me back up for a second. At least you were the person I spoke to about it first. That whole concept of, can you ever become, I said, how did I ask you? What did I say to you? I can't remember how I phrased it.
Oh, I think you asked me, do I consider myself Mexican, basically?
Not consider yourself Mexican, did I say? Didn't I say, is it ever going to be okay to say I'm a Mexican, or do we always have to preface it with I'm an American Mexican, or I'm an American Brazilian? Because I've had that argument back and forth, and you said some pretty insightful things, but go ahead, what were you going to say?
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything.
Wow. Go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, because at this point, I mean, I'm almost 3 years deep in here. I mean, I go back and forth to the States, but the longest I've ever stayed was a month. So you know, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what's going on in America, or you know, a lot of things, you know.
Well, and here's the thing: you don't have to be coy about it now, because we're in a situation where you can talk openly. But you said that you actually say I'm a Mexican. Did you actually say those words to me?
Yeah, because at this point, I mean, you know, I spent 30 years of my life, literally 30 years of my life, because I left the month of my birthday, my 30th birthday in the States. But at this point, like I said, I have no idea what goes on in America. So it's just like, if it wasn't for Facebook, I would have no idea. I don't search it out. I don't seek it. You know, like unless my sister calls and tells me or sends me an article, or my friends or something, I have no idea. Everything is Mexican.
Roxanne, am I crazy? Are you there, Rox?
Oh, she froze up.
I'm here. You broke. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I said, am I crazy? Because I think that, for example, I've been in Brazil for 4 years, and I've gotten all the paperwork and all the other stuff, and I'm legal in Brazil. But for me to ever say I'm a Brazilian, I feel like that's an insult to the Brazilian men who bled here, have been persecuted and prosecuted here, who grew up here, who've paid their lifeblood and taxes here, who understand the undercurrents of the way society here works in a way that if you weren't born here, could you ever really? And by the way, I don't really consider immigrant a dirty word. To say I'm an immigrant from America who became Brazilian, that's not an insult to me. But do you think that at some point I should ever have the audacity to say I'm a Brazilian?
Yeah, when you get that passport.
I mean, I'm a resident of Mexico. This is where I reside. So I consider myself, a Mexican resident. I don't consider myself to be Mexican, and I'm not even quite 2 years in. It's a country that I reside in, that has a place in my heart. But no, there was a running joke. I used to call myself an Afro-Mexicana, but I wouldn't say that I was Mexican at all the reasons that you state. I don't have the blood, sweat, and tears, or the the equity or the cultural equity of being a Mexican or a Black Mexican person, but I reside in Mexico.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, just because you disassociate yourself, because here's the thing, at least no matter where you are, you'll never not be an American. Is that reasonable, Elise?
Yeah.
Until I can decide to get that passport up.
Well, here's the question. Do you really believe that that's an option?
What happened? I didn't hear you. It cut out on me.
I said, is that really an option for you?
Yeah, it's an option. It would definitely be an option.
And so you believe that at a certain point, you may give up your American citizenship?
Yes, at this point in my life, it's pointless to me. It does nothing for me.
I wouldn't.
Why?
It opens a lot of doors for me. Being American here has a lot of privileges, and it's advantageous. It would be foolish of me to give up my American citizenship.
Do you understand what you'd be giving up, Roxanne? I mean, excuse me, Lise?
I mean, I don't use my U.S. passport for anything here. I mean, I have my own business. I mean, I use it for nothing. I use it for nothing.
But here's where we disagree. You do use it because whether or not you flash your passport, your being an American means something.
Well, they can think whatever they want to think. I mean, because like I'm saying, I don't flash it. I don't use it for anything here. So what is the point of me even having it? At this point, I don't even, you know, I can cross the border whenever I get ready to. That's not even an issue. So, I mean, Mexicans do it on the daily illegally. So sure, why couldn't I?
Wow. I don't know. Am I not articulating this the right way, Roxanne?
No, like you are. I mean, for Elise, she's committed to living in Mexico, and for her, she doesn't see the point of it. Now, if she were to, but you know, she is American, born and bred. She's American, like she said, 30 years of her life. Now, she knows if she were to travel to other countries, you know, she knows that it would be an advantage for her. Her Americanness would open doors for her. It would afford her certain privileges that she wouldn't necessarily have if she was a Black person from not from the United States. She knows that.
If you become a Black Mexican, are you still able to travel the world at your leisure? Even if you say Brazil.
Yeah, they have a very powerful passport. They do.
Wait,
I think they're like number 12 or something.
Wait, say that again.
I said they have a very powerful passport.
Wait.
It's lower than 12. It's lower than 12.
Let her finish her sentence. Let her finish her sentence. Rox, let her finish. Go ahead, Elise. Say that again. I want to make sure I heard that.
I said they have a powerful passport. It ain't too much lower than the United States passport.
Are you saying that the Mexican passport is almost equal to the American passport on a global stage?
Yeah, when it comes to travel.
You know what? Before I open my mouth, I'm gonna look up passport rankings.
The list I saw, I think it's like 10
different countries. There's a difference or something. And quite frankly, I mean, the United States is losing every year. So good luck on that one.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about what is the top 10. Because once you're out of the top 10, now you're talking about a whole lot of stuff that, let's see.
And I'm not a traveler, so I could really care less. I mean, I'm not jumping from country to country. I've never been a traveler. I don't care to be a traveler. So,
wait a minute.
Elise has lived in 4 countries. She's lived in 4 countries: United States, China, Mexico, and Guatemala. Back in Mexico. So she has traveled.
I don't collect passport stamps. I mean, I could care less.
Hold on. Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to give you the passport index. I'm going to put it in the thing. Okay. The passport index says USA is number 3. It's number 3 under the United Arab Emirates and Germany.
It's not number 3. I think they're like number 7
one source
now.
Because Singapore was number 1 on the list that I saw. So the list varies.
That must be old.
It's a subjective list.
Because, we've dropped down a lot.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to give you my reference. If you want to refute that, that's fine. But I want to see yours. I want to see you tell me that Mexico is somehow even close to being on par passport-wise. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for how powerful America is.
My situation is different than other people's because I'm not caring about no travel, so I could care less. I'm not into collecting passport stamps.
But that's the thing. You live in another country, so you can't say I'm not a traveler. You can't be kind of pregnant or kind of a smoker. You choose to live outside of a country that's your own. You are a traveler.
No, I'm not. I live here. I don't travel back and forth to anywhere.
Wow. So the fact that you weren't born there doesn't count.
No,
the fact
it
that you
doesn't.
Travel there and get all kinds of paperwork done doesn't matter. You're still not a traveler.
No, it does not matter because, like I just told you, I could have easily just crossed the border and no one would have even known I was even here.
Isn't crossing the border traveling? Because right now, I feel like you're just preaching to yourself because what you're saying makes no sense at all. I'm saying
it makes perfect sense because I can literally just cross the border. I can cross another border. I can cross another border, and nobody would even know I was even there.
Yeah, but
people do it all the time.
Traveling.
How do you think the Guatemalans are doing it, and the Hondurans and the Mexicans?
I agree, but you're still traveling.
There is no passport that is needed to travel outside the United States into one of these other South American and Central American countries.
But didn't you just use the verb I did? The word travel?
I could walk, I could run, or whatever you want to call it.
But that's the thing. You just use the word travel. And that's how we keep getting back to it. What I'm saying, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be a member of any country. But what I'm saying is that for you to call yourself a Mexican at any point, well, do you feel that that kind of robs the people who came before you in America of some of the agency they had in getting us to the point where, as a Black American, you could just leave the country if you felt like it?
Nope, because this whole world is mine. So, and it was ours originally, so it's gonna be ours again. So it's mine.
Awesome, and none of that shit. Because here's the thing: as a Black American who's traveled other countries, I can tell you that there are a lot of people who are still fighting the fights that we have because they don't have the privilege of just saying, "I'm going to pick up and go."
Well, I'm sorry, my ancestors did the blood, sweat, and tears to do that.
Yes,
maybe they
exactly.
should too.
Yes. And so to no longer identify with them after they helped get the ball this far, that's kind of pain. And I hope I'm not cutting you out of the conversation, Rox.
My ancestors had put their blood, sweat, and tears so I could have the privilege to do that. That's not what you get now.
Why would you not want to identify with them? To say, yep.
I never said I didn't want to identify. I just said I was going to give up my U.S. citizenship. So I never said I wasn't going to identify.
Okay, that's fair.
Now, if people want to consider me still an American or whatever the hell else, I could really care less. But at this point in time, I live in Mexico. I've been living here for almost 3 years. I get called a Mexican on a daily. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I get called. Well, here's my other question. Do they differentiate? And I don't know if Roxana, you've seen this as much. Do they differentiate between expats and immigrants there?
Well, the usual understanding, the conversations that I've been involved in is that there's a certain classism with using the word expatriates. And it's usually a term that people use when they're not necessarily, they just don't want to be classified as an immigrant, because an immigrant denotes someone who is brown or Black or poor or refugee. That's the undercurrent with people identifying as immigrants as opposed to being an expatriate. So when I write about things, the Bangura Chronicles, whenever I write, I use both words. When I write in a tag, I say expatriate, I say immigrants. I consider myself to be an immigrant. I'm a child of immigrants to the United States. But there's an undercurrent of, being less than as being an immigrant as opposed to being an expatriate. And usually it's an identification that a lot of foreigners in Mexico who are from the United States and Canada who are white, they tend to patriot. I'm an immigrant because I immigrated to Mexico. So I'm an immigrant to this country.
I think that's that's a very, one of the interesting things that I've found is when I try to give people I'm not an expat here, I think I'm transferring, I'm more of an immigrant now, they still want to classify me as an expat just by definition of, well, you're an American. And I said, well, no, I'm an immigrant because I'm learning not just the language, but the culture, but the way things are going, the way, it's just everything.
Yeah, I migrated here, I immigrated here, I'm an immigrant. I have residency. My daughter goes to school here. I'm a new immigrant to this country, So I don't, that term expatriate, it's used, even the book that I'm a part of, they use the term, but I don't necessarily identify as an expatriate in Mexico. Maybe I was an immigrant when I lived in England because I know I was only going to be there for 6 months. So that's an expatriate. But to me, if you're living in a country for several years, you're an immigrant. If you have residency, you're paying taxes. My child goes to school here. She'll graduate from school here. I live here. This is where I live. This is my country of residency.
Oh, by the way, when do you get your passport? Are you still working on that?
Yes, I have it.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess
not my passport, my temporal residency, not my passport.
Okay, because that's where I am. I'm still working slowly but surely. But it's one of those situations where, yeah, it takes so long. It takes so long.
But
wait, hold on, you're breaking up.
So much easier. And it's so much easier, being American, to migrate into Mexico or to immigrate or get residency in Mexico. And I'm sure it's the same case in Brazil.
You know what I will say is, in Brazil, they absolutely love paperwork and bureaucracy. However,
person getting legal residency or a Brazilian person getting legal residency in the United States.
You started breaking up. Can you say that last sentence again? Elise, did you hear her? Because she broke up on mine.
No, I guess. Are you on Wi-Fi?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said that as an American, you can't hear me? You can't hear me?
Hello? I can. Yeah, now.
So I said the process as an American, getting temporal or legal residency, permanent residency is very fast, very simple compared to Mexicans getting the same residency in the United States, getting a green card, a permanent residency in the United States. It's not as expensive. It's just not as much red tape. It was a very simple process. So it's very advantageous as an American if you are migrating or emigrating to Mexico. You can get it through your employer, or you can get it if you have a certain amount of income coming in, and it's just an easier process than the reverse. That's all that I said.
Because I know here, the process is really long. It's really convoluted. However, one of the things that we often say is that at least there's a method. Because, as you said, going to the United States, we like to believe that there is a method through which you can become an American citizen that's clear, and you file this paperwork and you do this and you do that. But there's an unfortunate reality. It's just not true. I mean, in the United States,
unless you get married. Unless you get married. That's why there's so many false marriages. Unless you get married.
Yeah,
even then it's not clear.
Yeah, because like you said, because there were so many false marriages, it's not like it was 5-10 years ago where you could really believe that getting married would make a difference. Now, marrying an American means get in line. Doesn't guarantee anyone anything.
And you actually have to live there for a while. So that's why I tell all these Mexican men and whoever else that live here, because I've met Jamaicans and Haitians and Nigerians and whoever else, you'll never get U.S. citizenship through me. So, because I'm not planning on going back.
Well, there's let me think. What's her name? Francesca Ramsey. Back in 2017, she did an MTV Decoded. And I'm going to put the link to it here because one of the things she talked about was the kind of the myths of what happens through passports and marriage and all that. But it's not that like that at all. And what most people don't do is they don't want to know that you really can't just say, oh, I want to do it this way or I'm going to do it that way. It doesn't work at all.
Yeah, I think residency, you have to be there for 4 years and then not happening over here.
Have you been approached with the whole, hey, marry me so we can do this? Because here, it's Yeah, if you're
by a Jamaican guy. I'm like, well, I don't really want Jamaican citizenship, so but good luck with that.
Yeah, it's a weird, excuse me, it's a weird situation to be in because a lot of people think that, oh, you must want to do it for money. And it's like, nah, it's not. It's not.
Not. I mean, if it was an equal or, less equal or what is it, equal or more value, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it, but,
But yeah, you're not looking at, yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, it's one of those countries that you could probably go to on your own if you really wanted to. You could simply go to Jamaica.
Yeah, exactly, and get residency easily. That's what I'm saying. I need like European citizenship or like Singaporean or something, something that's equal or greater value. There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, Singapore, I've been to Singapore and I've heard that it's also a very tough country to get it through because it's a small country, so they can keep much tighter restrictions on things. But I've read that it's actually a very difficult process there as well.
At one point, it was supposed to be easy, but they changed it.
For Singapore? Well, yeah, they probably got a bunch of Americans that came in.
Well, from what someone told me is that Singapore doesn't have a lot of young workers, so they were importing a lot. And so, of course, the locals started getting mad and put a stop to that.
I can see that happening. I have two friends that are German, and they are dealing with this influx of immigrants from African nations who were brought in because of I think it's, and I'm going to give a very inaccurate description because I'm not German. I don't read German news because I don't speak the language. Angela Merkel was talking about bringing in lots of refugees, which is okay if you want to do that, even against your own country's wishes. The problem is when you bring tons of young, uneducated men into a country that also has its own young, uneducated men, there's going to be a problem because they're competing for the same job.
Huge problem.
When a foreigner from another country comes to the United States, I'm not threatened because none of the things I do can be done by someone who doesn't have a minimum amount of education through a university system. It's not a threat to me, but I have a cousin who's a cook in a restaurant, and I don't mean a chef. He's just a regular line cook. His job really is threatened because there's someone who'll do that job for 50%.
Yeah.
He didn't go through the being an expat or immigrant to be there, and that's a big deal. That's a very
well. The difference is on why you should be threatened in the States is because they give all kinds of benefits to those type of people. If I came here to Mexico and I was poor and down and out, they're not going to give me all kinds of benefits to increase my education and everything else. With this DACA and everything else that they're giving these people, I mean, you should be upset a little bit because and they're paying it with your taxes too.
I need to interject here to that. Because there are programs in Mexico that give benefits to refugees from different brown countries, people from Spanish-speaking countries, as well as Haitians, as well as other Africans.
I wasn't talking about refugees. I'm talking about people that just come on over and whatever else. Because people do that, and they do it in Mexico all the time, and Guatemala and other countries too, that have easy crossable borders. And they're definitely doing it in Italy and other countries too.
Okay, I let you have the floor, right? I let you have the floor, so it's my turn. And my point is not just refugees, other migrants from a lot in terms of supporting them. There were specific programs for them, housing, monetary support, job support. Mexico had those programs in place. Some of those programs have changed with this new administration, but prior to him, there was programs in place that Mexico has done for people from brown countries, to include the Caribbean, Latin America, as well as Africa. That program was in place here in Mexico, and a lot of people don't know that. As for, yes, DACA is a beneficiary program. I don't know what other programs there are because my family wasn't privy to such a program. And there's a perception by particularly American people that foreigners get some type of leeway when they come into the United States. This didn't happen with my family. This didn't happen with my family and people that I went to school with who were from the Caribbean. So I don't know. It wasn't something that happened with us. This information, yes, it is. The flip side of that, Mexico has programs for people from brown countries migrating here to support them.
But what is your definition of a migrant? Because I mean, I'm talking about
a migrant is someone who just travels. An immigrant, a migrant, someone who leaves their country and migrates to another country for whatever reason.
I'm talking about illegals, and I'm not talking about refugees either.
No, these are people for various reasons from different countries. The mere fact that they were from, they didn't support American people per se, but the fact that you were from either a Spanish-speaking country, if you were a brown person, Mexico had programs in place to support you living here in Mexico. That was a government-recognized program, not for American citizens, no.
But were they considered illegal or refugees? Because there's a difference. What a migrant to me is somebody that came legally or as a refugee. I'm not talking about somebody that just crossed over the border. Hey, I'm here. Can I get a job now? And, you know, health benefits and go to school. Because they do have programs like that for people in America. I know, I used to work on it.
I don't know about, no one is illegal. That's not a language that I use because it's offensive, it's dehumanizing, so there's no one that's illegal. Now, in terms of the people coming in, it's different. Some of them came in through visa, some of them came in however they got to Mexico.
Can I make a short interjection, Roxana? Because I understand a lot of what you're saying, but one thing that I have to address is that, to use an overused phrase, words mean things. So when we say legal or illegal, regardless of how you feel, there unfortunately is a reality to using those words. And I say that as someone living in a country that's not my own. The word legal and illegal means a lot to every other country in the world that I've ever lived in, and I've lived in about 15 across 5 nations. If anyone else has a different experience, that's fine, but we can say we don't want illegal to be a pejorative statement and make the definition to more accurately reflect the people they're talking about, but we can't pretend like the word legal or illegal isn't a real thing. Because
I mean, why set up processes if you're not going to follow them and if you're not going to call it what they're to be called?
Either you're documented or you're undocumented. I'm very firm on that. Either you're documented or you're undocumented. I'm not going to call an individual illegal. You're documented or you're undocumented.
I agree that choosing not to use a word is a personal preference. There are words that I don't use because I feel that they are disparaging and demeaning. But you can't say that the word isn't accurate. I personally choose not to use certain words, but I can't deny that those words may in fact be very accurate descriptors of the situation that we're talking about, outside of even this situation.
You're either documented or you're undocumented.
Is it fair to say being undocumented it cannot be legal?
You're either documented or undocumented. No, that's it. Because there's a whole conversation that we can have behind the situation with people migrating to the United States, and that's not what this conversation is about.
But we've got time and internet, so I'm more than welcome to be educated on something I don't understand. So I want to give you the platform and the time to say.
I'm not using that term. I find it offensive. I find it dehumanizing. I find it very disrespectful, and it speaks to a certain attitude that's very xenophobic and hateful. So I will not engage in that language, calling someone illegal or illegal. You're either documented or you're undocumented.
So you just said that that's a different conversation. I'm here to listen if you really want to open that up for me so that I have a better understanding of what you mean.
There are policies that the United States government has put in place in countries, to include Mexico, that have been very detrimental to the development, to the safety, to the advancement, to the progression of these countries and their people. So if you put someone in this really tight, precarious, unsafe situation, they seek refuge, they seek advancement, they seek safety, security, progression, all these basic human civil rights. They will seek it elsewhere. And that's just my take on that. That's just my opinion on that. So these people will leave because of the dire situations that the American government has put them in as a result of having these policies, these imperialistic policies in these countries, in these brown countries, in these Latin American countries, to include Mexico on down.
Okay, I understand where you're couching your argument. To be fair, you're absolutely right. The United States has a very long and clear history of meddling in the affairs of any country they can get their hands on. Really, that we can get our hands on, we have done it. And so you're right. We have fostered.
Ain't no we here. Don't include me. I ain't do nothing. We can put that blame where it belongs.
Is it fair to say the American government?
Yeah, say the American government, because don't include me. Got a history of nothing.
Now, also, on the side of what Roxana was saying, even here in Brazil, there are documented programs. Actually, Dr. Andre, who was on a different thing that I did, came from Jamaica, and he really makes me aware that all over the world there are programs for people from other developed, underdeveloped, non-G8 countries that we don't know about as Black Americans or Americans in general, because the reality is it's not ever meant to help an American because we already have most of the gold as an American. And it's one of those situations that he actually did say some things that fit perfectly with what Roxana said, that most of us don't know that there are programs that a lot of countries do to help each other that we're simply unaware of.
Yeah, that still doesn't negate the fact that there's a legal process and an illegal process, and all that other stuff is just noise. So, I mean, what is the point of having a legal process if people aren't going to follow it? I mean, what is the point of rules then? I mean, that's just the end of the story at the end of the day.
And we're also going to delve into the whole, and this is a very interesting thing to say as Black Americans or Brown Americans or original Americans, Native Americans. Have the rules or the laws ever been fair or just? And that's a different conversation, and we can apply that. We can apply that conversation to immigration. It's just one of those situations, for example, completely unrelated, but an illustration of what I'm going to say. When we have someone like a relevant topic right now, the Michael Jackson Leaving Neverland reports about child molestation. There are people who have said to me now the same thing they said when O.J. Simpson was found not guilty. They say, well, he was found not guilty. And I said, so we can't have it both ways as brown people. We can't say the law is just and they got it right. And we also can't say, you know, at the same time say, well, when the verdict didn't go our way, hey, the system is rigged. The system is always rigged. But sometimes good guys get screwed by the system and sometimes the bad guys go free. So to say that the laws, I mean, I understand that you must have laws for any kind of cohesive country, but we can't just blindly say that the law is always going to get it right, particularly when we're talking about the treatment of brown people from anywhere in the world. I don't care what country you're coming from, brown or native people. You know, the laws will never be there to help you.
Well, if there's programs, then I really don't see what the problem is then. If there's programs to help for that situation, either there's programs that don't, or they do, or, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know what to say about that. But like you're saying, as an American, I would never be privy to that, because there was a story that was in the group. I think he had applied to France, and as an American, they were like, yeah, no, like, you're an American, there's nothing going on. They're not killing you over there every day. So they denied him as a refugee.
What's interesting is that using refugee status is also a very, I won't say common, but a little known tactic that a lot of Americans use in Brazil to bridge the gap between the time they get here and the time they get the rest of the things. Because once you're an immigrant in Brazil, they work with the assumption that you're not a bad guy. So they just say, okay, we'll give you full privileges while your case is being processed, even though your case may take 3 to 5 years to process. As long as you don't do anything stupid, go ahead and be legal, have a bank account, and do all the things that a regular Brazilian would do. Whereas in the United States, and I'm being clear, you can't compare apples and oranges. They're two different non-related things. The assumption is when you apply for being an immigrant, the assumption is, no, you get nothing at all, not even the right to have a bank account or a legal driver's license until we see your case, which is interesting because I look at the things that really matter. You know, I can't vote here. Clearly, I can't run for office, things that are important. But they can just say, hey, you know, in the meantime, when you guys apply for your citizenship as an immigrant, don't worry about it. Now, as an American, of course, they're all going to get denied. As an American, you're not going to be accepted as a immigrant. I mean, excuse me, as a prosecuted person, which that day is coming. But it's a very interesting difference. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you make perfect sense. You're just agreeing with what I said. Like the guy that applied, I think it was France. They were like, no, you can't be a refugee because you're an American. I mean, there's no help.
What was his name?
I don't know the guy's name. It was the article maybe back in 2013, I want to say. But I mean, use that American privilege though.
Well, there was a guy named Carl Liddell Canty. Here he is. Carl Liddell Canty was feared that the police would kill him in the United States, and so he applied for refugee status in Canada.
And it was Canada. Maybe that's the guy I'm talking about. I knew it was, you know, one of those developed countries.
Now, Teresa Harbin said, laws for European immigrants are completely different than laws for brown and black people. There's nothing fair or sacred about law. She said that in our question comment on the side.
Yeah, she's right. Teresa said that, right? Teresa Harbin.
Yeah. Hey, Teresa. she's right to an extent.
Yeah, I remember that case. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was France. So my bad. I thought it was France. It's Canada. Okay. Yeah, that was 2013-ish.
Yes. Hold on. Let me double check. Can't see what. This was 2016. This one I'm looking at.
Oh, 16. Okay, so it was more recent. Okay.
Yeah, let me think. There was another one who was a black refugee status, Germany. There was a guy who went to Germany. If I'm not mistaken, he left because the Washington Post did an article on it, and I'm wondering if, let's see, there was a black man who left the United States military and he wanted to go into Germany. And it was a very interesting concept because the question becomes, can you say that specifically as a black American that you have a legitimate claim to being thought of as a refugee?
No, not one bit. But I mean, maybe we should get a big group of people and try.
Well, let me back up for a second. Do you believe that on an individual level?
Well, I mean, you have bodies like the United States that have said publicly that Black Americans are due reparations. So, you know, it may not have, you know, they've had language around this. They recognize the atrocities being by the United States government in terms of police brutality. So this is, you know, this international body has said publicly, you know, look, these things that are happening to Black people in the United States are wrong. It's illegal. They're owed reparations. They're owed protections. So if the UN believes that, that's an international body of government. That's international body that, you know, he's definitely under duress living in a for Black people in the United States. That is a reality. and he was within his right to seek refuge elsewhere.
Oh yeah, he was well within his rights.
He was within his right to seek.
I really, Rox, you have so many great things to say. We gotta get you a better connection. Maybe we can chip in and get you one of those high-speed connectors into your house.
Mexico actually has good internet. I don't know about her part though. Mexico City surely did.
Steph, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you there?
You just started chopping up.
Did you hear what I said, Yusef? Did you hear?
I need you to repeat yourself. It was a little choppy.
Where did I break up? Where did I break up?
Elise, are you hearing her clearly?
No, it's her internet connection.
Yeah, this is.
Can you hear me? Y'all not here? Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, maybe you should get off of Wi-Fi and use your phone internet.
Will that give her a cleaner connection?
Yeah, it should. That's what I have to do sometimes.
Can y'all hear me? I hate.
We can hear you though. Unfortunately, your connection is just a little. It's just a little shaky. That's all.
I'm actually shocked mine is working so good because usually when I do phone service, it sucks so bad on Google Hangouts.
The UN, I just said that the UN recognized that African Americans were and are due reparations, and that they're living in a state of duress under PTSD.
Yeah.
Said. So if the UN can recognize that he was within his rights to seek refuge elsewhere, he was within his right to seek refuge elsewhere. The United Nations agrees with Black American people on reparations and the state of police brutality and all the unjust laws that are happening to Black people in the United States. The United Nations has come out and said, "This is wrong, America. This is wrong. Correct this."
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. I think we are approaching a situation in our lifetime where it may be feasible to be looked at and said, this is an accurate thing, because it's happening more and more often. And what they're finding is that there are certain parameters that the United Nations sets for being a refugee. And it's terrifying for the United States to be forced to admit that there are people within its own borders that fit that qualification.
Yeah, well, how much you want to bet on that? Because I'll bet you.
Because the first thing I'll say is that I know for certain, I've read articles, and I can look them up again if anybody really needs to get that link. There are places in the United States that fit the legal definition of a war zone when you look at the number of people killed. There are places in Chicago, and I hate to use Chicago as a poster boy. There are places in Chicago where per square mile, they can actually look at it and say, yes, this meets the definition of a war zone.
That's sad. And also there's communities that don't have running water and all kinds of services. And so
that's a reality. That is the reality of the United States. It was a Caribbean country. I don't know if it was either Barbados, Bahamas. It was one Caribbean country that had travel advisories. They told their citizens, hey, if you're Black, you're going to the United States, you must be very careful because of police killing Black people. I forget, it was like a couple of years ago.
There's been a couple.
Yeah, there's been a couple. Yeah. That's like a very real thing. Like, you must be careful there. The police will kill you. And I mean, other countries feel the same way about the United States. I mean, it's dangerous. We've normalized the violence, you know, in the United States and what police do. It's very normalized. But that sort of thing, to talk about Mexico, not that there's not, of course, there's police brutality and all sorts of problems here, but you just don't hear on a national level, you just don't hear about police killing people. It just doesn't seem that way. I don't know, at the same rate as it does in the United States. It just doesn't seem like something that happens here.
People don't want to vacation in the United States. People don't want to go to school in the United States. And it's not just in the Caribbean and African nations. I've heard this from Asian people and all over. They don't want to come to the States because of guns and the violence.
Wow. You're right. That's a scary situation to be in for us to realize that. I've often been asked, people said, well, I read that Brazil is dangerous. I said, well, it is dangerous the same way parts of America are dangerous if you live in the wrong place. Unfortunately, one thing that one of my buddies pointed out to me, and you guys have probably seen him, some of you have met Dave online. Dave is usually on with me when I do different things. But he said something interesting because he's lived in Brazil in the past as well. He said, in Brazil, money can insulate you against systematic violence in a way that it can't in America. He said, in this country, there are a lot of terrible things that happen to Black people, but some of it you can buy your way out of by virtue of where you live and what you have. He said, in America, a rich Black person will be shot in the face by the police at the exact same rate as a kid from the ghetto, which is and I'm still trying to decide how I feel about that. Because I've been here 4 years, you know?
Do you think it's true?
I'm still trying to figure out if I'm qualified.
Because I don't believe that at all. I just don't.
I'm still trying to figure out if I'm qualified to answer that, because I know I have met certain privileges by definition of not living where the poor people live.
Oh, I agree with that. But I mean, if the police rolled up on you and were like, give me this or that, and you didn't give it, I don't think that you would not be shot. Like, I don't know.
Here, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't agree with Dave there.
Here, that thing that you're talking about, the police rolling up on someone, I've been in situations where the police will grab a bunch of people that are together. I was at a bus stop, but there was a clear delineation. They were grabbing the people that looked poor, not the people that looked like they had money. Not rich money, but the kids who looked poor, the people who looked poor, regardless of age, were grabbed. The people who did not look poor were left alone. And that cut didn't cross race line. It crossed a poverty line, a class line.
So there were I don't want to call them white, but white looking people there too.
Yes, it was a bus stop near a very well-known street, and I was there when it happened. I was there. I was part of the group. And when they were grabbing people, they were distinctly grabbing the people who were wearing flip-flops instead of shoes, who looked like poor people.
Oh, Lord, don't let me come there and wear some flip-flops then, because I stay in my sandals.
There's a difference, though. I don't mean that. I don't mean just the sandals. It's the quality of what you're wearing. Because, again, I'm not rich. I don't claim to be rich. I'm just stable. But one of the things that that I have seen, and my eyes are different as someone who moved to this country later in life, I think I'm a little bit more observant. It's a terrifying prospect. Because, for example, I have a guy that I know. I won't even call him a friend. He got into a very weird situation with himself here. And he had some money and he squandered it all, didn't want to work, and he began living in lower and lower class areas and didn't have complaints about the way people were treated here, even though he was Black, until he was associated with being Black and poor. And his whole world got turned upside down. That combination of Black and poor isn't good anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak on it too much. When I first moved to Mexico, I was in the ghetto. And everything seemed okay and nice, and I never had any problems. I even got lost my first night, and nobody did or said anything to me. But I didn't notice any police presence, out of the ordinary. I didn't see anybody getting beat or, ran over. Actually, I noticed it more now that I live in a ritzy neighborhood. The police come through here, and I see people getting pulled over all the time. So I don't know what to think. And, you know, in America, you know, I'm having my PTSD. In America, you get pulled over, you know, guns might get drawn. So I'm like, let me get the hell up out of here. I don't even want to be there. You know, I'm having my PTSD moments. So, you know, even though nothing probably happened.
Roxana, what has your experience been like there as a Black woman?
Yesterday, speaking of, can y'all hear me? Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
So to piggyback off of what you said about having PTSD, I was walking yesterday and a police officer, you know, drove up next to me, and, you know, they don't ever ask me anything. You know, they're very nice, very friendly, very courteous. And he was like, "Where are you from?" And I was taken aback because usually they'll speak to me, but they never ask, you know, too many questions. And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "I'm just asking." And it was as though he felt bad for asking, but there was no type of anxiety. There was no type of pit in my stomach stress. I wasn't scared of him because I knew he didn't mean anything bad by asking me where I was from. He was just curious, nosy. But, you know, that wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened in the United States.
No,
you know?
it would have went a whole other way.
Yeah. Exactly. It would have went the other way.
Where are you from means why are you in this neighborhood? That's what that means.
Exactly. That's what that means. That's the code for what you know, what are you doing here?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm good on life here in Mexico. I don't feel any type of fear from the police. I'm not being naive because, of course, you know, everywhere in there are problems, but, you know, so far so good. So far, so good. He muted him.
It's just disturbing that so many, you know, I remember listening to the beginning of I Am Not Your Negro, the great movie about Charles Baldwin. And I don't know if both of you saw it, and I'm going to misquote him, and I don't want to pretend to be as good with words as he is, but he talked about two things. He said something about, you know, leaving the United States to be treated like he was just a man. But the interesting thing is when he was asked to come back to the United States to help work on things, to do those things that Charles Baldwin became famous for so many generations, he had to make a decision. He had to actually sit back and ask himself, do I want to go back in? And the only other people I've heard talk about going back that way are my friends in the military who talk about going back to a war zone. You know, and that's
agreed. I mean, that's very profound about, you know, being treated like a man. The level of respect that I have here from my community is so different. The nail shop, going to the nail shop, something as simple as going to the nail shop and not being made to feel like I'm a thief. Can you imagine? I've gone to the nail shop, and if I had a problem with my bank cards, my nail shop only takes chipped cards, and I didn't have my chipped card. You know, many a times, okay, Roxana, come back whenever. Look, if I would have been in a shop in the United States, I don't know what would have happened to me. They would have beaten me up, ran me down, you know, who knows what would have happened because of the perception or the way they treat Black people in the United States. There's so many instances here where people just take you as you are, and you don't have to worry about being mistreated simply because of the color of your skin. It's a totally different experience, totally different, very eye-opening, very eye-opening. And you get used to it, you get spoiled by it, you fall in love with it. Yeah, exactly. You're so spoiled. It's just, you're so spoiled, you know. The store by my house, the owner of the store, half the time, I know he don't even weigh the fruits and vegetables that I buy. Man, just be giving us stuff, you know. Just, I mean, people are just genuinely kind. So, excuse me. And I did not receive this treatment in the United States. Unheard of.
Yeah, I agree. My first night in Guatemala, I had ordered some food over the phone. And, you know, I told my bank that I was going to be in Guatemala. and they still denied the transaction, probably because it was keyed in instead of swiped. But they were like, your card's denied. And I'm just like, well, it shouldn't be. They were like, well, just come by in the next, couple of days and pay us. And I'm just like, well, all right then, like that would never happen in the States, like, what do you mean you don't have any money? Like your car is declined. Like, what are you going to do about this, And so it's just like Roxana said, it's a whole different experience, and I don't know if it's because I'm Black or if it's because I'm American, but it could be because I'm a woman. You never know, but it could be a mixture of things too.
Now you raise a good point. Is it because you're Black, or is it because you're a woman, or or is it because you're American? And it could just be a combination of all three.
Yeah,
I think it's a combination of all three. And I really think our blackness puts us over the top. I really do.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Our otherness. I mean, at the gym today, you can almost, it's to the point where I can almost hear people think. And, I'm new at the gym. This was my second day there. So they were, everyone is looking and you can almost hear them wanting to ask, and it's never anything. It's usually not negative.
What?
Who are you? Where are you from?
Why are you here?
Why are you here? And I'm in a small
town.
town. They're just not used to seeing people that look like me. I mean, there's maybe 5 Black women here. So it's, you're an oddity, you're exotic, you're different. Like, wow, what is this Black person doing here? And this is why it's an annoyance, it's invasive, but this, it's hard for us to understand it because we just want to go about our lives, and we're from places that, we just want to go on about our lives, and we're from the United States. So we're from a country that's a mixing pot, different types of people. But where I am, it's very homogeneous, and people are so enthralled with your presence, and you're just like, let me live my life. And you don't know, you could have made someone's day. I mean, the taxi driver that knows us, he always yells when he sees us, like he's happy to see us. And the people in his taxi will wave at us too. And
wait,
what the hell they waving for?
This must
Why
be
you waving?
Small, like every movie you've ever seen about a small hometown where you have the local taxi driver, the local grocer. Yeah. That just sounds like such a cute little town you live in.
Yeah, I'm in Mayberry. It's like I'm in Mayberry. It's very, it's very incestuous. So it can be very annoying, but at the same time, it can be very annoying because you want your privacy and everything. But at the same time, you don't see any type of malicious intent. People are not mean. People are just very curious, and they're genuinely very kind. So, there's no one really out to hurt you for the most part. I had one incident. I have to go check the person. But for the most part, people are they're just curious because, they're in a small town that they're just not used to seeing Black people. That's all.
Well, to get back on topic, there was a guy I had met when I lived in the city, and he was from France. He was a French citizen, but I asked him, where are you really from? Get that question. And he said his family came from Chad. So, when you say to me, how can I claim Mexican citizenship? What if I have children here and, I stay here forever? Would they be considered Mexican? Because his family moved to France, even though they were originally from Chad.
No. You are,
and he's French.
No, that is not what I said. I never asked you, how could you claim Mexican citizenship? I never asked you that. I never said that you should not be able to be called a citizen of that country. What I said is, could you ever find yourself in a situation where you said, I am Mexican? That was the question.
Yeah, because I live here now. I don't claim the U.S. as my home anymore.
Again, not the question at hand. What I asked you specifically was, could you ever say, I am Mexican? Of course, if you have kids there, they're Mexican.
Yeah.
That's not the issue at hand. The question I asked you was, could you say I am Mexican, which is a very different question. You know, I often say that the difference.
I don't claim the United States as my home. I don't ever plan on going back.
Again, we're not talking about the United States. The question I had could be couched in any. You can be from anywhere you want. That's not what I said. You know, the question I had is because one of the issues that comes up is in the countries that I've lived in, we often have situations where people feel as if I could be that or I couldn't. I'll give you a great example. I have a good buddy of mine who was in Brazil for a while. He came from China where, I mean, he's a Black American, lived in China, did some work out there. Then he moved to Brazil. Then he moved back to China because he says, you know, China is just where it's at for me. Totally understand that. But we had a very deep conversation one day where I said, you know, living here in Brazil, I can become integrated into Brazilian society. If I respect the culture and respect the language, I won't be treated as if I am somehow less than because I am a foreigner. And again, contingent on respecting the culture, learning the language. Will there be someone who sells me something for a few pennies more? Absolutely, it's going to happen. But the amount of money you save living here doesn't really, you know, I say charge that to the game. But one of the interesting things he said is he understands that living in China, and this is something I found true of China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, those countries, under no circumstance, regardless of how well he learns the language or how long he lives there, he will never be accepted into that society. And that's one of the big differences between certain countries. That's why I felt comfortable choosing this to be a place where I look for a second passport.
I don't know. I have to ask Hugh John how he feels about that and other people that live in China.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Because I mean, to me, they're pretty damn integrated, so I don't know.
He is amazing. I did a podcast with him years ago about that. And Hugh is amazing. The question is, and I want to, if we can get the time difference settled, and he may be on another week, we'll have to ask him, is the ability to be able to say at a certain point, you will no longer be kept at arm's length because you are not born Chinese. Now, I can tell you from my short 2 years that I've been there, not compared to his, 7 years, I can tell you from what I've seen and from everyone that I know that's lived there, there will never be a day when you are still not treated as, I don't care how long you've been here, you're still not quite good enough. Whereas here, if you have your things, there are other countries, if you have your life together, you can be considered good enough. I would actually argue Americans are in those countries. America treats people like dirt if they come from another country, regardless of where that country is. Especially if you're brown from another country or you haven't mastered the language
that is true. And the language is the main reason why.
You know, I take that. I've seen brown people from other countries who come with a university level education, who are smarter than your average American, who are still, you know, despite that, treated less than.
Yeah, I've met a lot myself, working and, you know, so, but I guess here in Mexico, I've been ingrained in the business world. With my business, I have a business mentor. I work with people here. The main thing would be, you invite me in your whole business here. You know, if they won't let you do that, then I mean, you will never integrate. And that's why I brought up Hugh John, because he's doing big things out there. So to me, I mean, he's integrated to me.
You know, I'm gonna have to bring him in and really sit down, and that's one of the things that I'll ask him about. I'll be sure to let you know when he's gonna get back in and when he's gonna be on. You know, this is something that just popped into my head just talking about it, and I'm glad that both of you were able to take some time out of your day to really mix it up. I didn't know if you had any closing comments or anything that we hadn't touched on that you wanted to go into.
No, guess not.
I'm an immigrant. I did an immigrant. I'm not an expatriate. I live here. I reside here. This is my country of residence. I'm not a citizen, but I'm an immigrant, and you know, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, you immigrated there. You did all the hard work. You got the receipts to prove it, and I'm glad that you're enjoying your experience there as much as I'm enjoying my experience here.
Yeah, I've had to correct a couple of people on me being not an expat. I'm an immigrant. Shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, my 1 year anniversary is coming up of being an actual real immigrant. Yeah, I got 4 more years to go until I get that citizenship, unless I get married or something. But yeah,
So
or pop out a kid.
in that year, what have you learned about yourself there?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, before that, I was already here a whole year. So, I mean, it was just they're giving me bullshit about the process. So, I mean, I could have been a technically immigrant, but they were giving me bullshit about the process. I learned, I guess, that I could do whatever I set my mind to. And that my ancestors, you know, died, blood, sweat, and tears, raped, beaten, you name it. So I can do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, from all over the world. So before we go off, tell us both about your you know, and by the way, send me the links to put in where we can find you online and what you do online and all that good stuff. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Roxana.
I am the Bangura Chronicles, Bangura Chronicles. You can just put that in Google and you'll find me. I'm on Patreon as well as Facebook and the Roxana Bangura channel on YouTube. I talk about my life here in Mexico with my 10-year-old daughter, Amaris.
All right. My name is Elise Robinson, and I just launched my company, beaforeigner.com. I guess it was already launched, but I just got deep into it. Like I said, I'm working with business people here in Mexico. It's basically consultations and daily opportunities for people to move abroad, jobs and scholarships and things like that. So if you're thinking about moving abroad, hit beaforeigner.com. I do have my blog, which is my name, eliserobinson.com. My Instagram, Twitter, all that is underneath my name, eliserobinson.com. So it's all centralized.
Awesome. And you're basically saying if you're an American wanting to live outside of America, right?
No, these opportunities are for pretty much anyone.
Wow.
There is no citizenship, especially when it comes to the scholarships. Actually, I mean, I just launched last week and I have people from Guinea and South Korea and Russia on my website. I'm just amazed. So, hey, y'all.
Wow. Well, this is what I will do is I'm going to have to pass that around as well here. I think that might be something. You got to come to Brazil so I can have you shake hands with a bunch of people out here. Both of you are welcome to come out. I think you do well out here, just even if you came for a holiday.
Yeah,
you're the only reason I'd come to Brazil. Yeah, you're the only reason why I'd come there. That's it. See you, and I'm out.
Have you been to Brazil before?
No, you're the only no, I've never been. I would only go to visit you, and then I'm out. That's it.
That's a fun place.
That's it.
All right, I'll talk to you two later. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusef. Bye, Elise. Bye. See y'all.